I'm Caleb Swanson, and this is my speech called Biking in Cities. All right, so according to EPA.gov, it says that the average car emits 4.6 metric tons of carbon dioxide per year. And a way to visualize that is if every page in these stack of books was 1 pound, this would be 4.6 metric tons of carbon dioxide in the air from one car in 1 year. And according to Our Streets Minneapolis, if you're riding a bike for 1 kilometer, that only creates 5% of the carbon footprint a car ride the same distance would be. So this is about 5% of this stack. So if you rode a bike every single day for a year, this is the only carbon dioxide you would release into the atmosphere. And most of that's coming from your body when you're huffing and puffing and just riding your bike. So I'm a firm believer in bike travel, and I've personally reaped the benefits of the fun activity. In this speech, I will talk about cars in cities, things they do, and bikes in cities and things they do, and then some alternatives, some green alternatives to biking if that's not your thing. So let's get into it. Cars in cities. So according to IIHS, there was 33,654 fatal motor crashes in the year 2018. In those crashes, 36,560 people died. And those crashes were caused by cars hitting pedestrians, things like that. So obviously cars aren't as safe as bikes when you're looking at the grand scope of things. So there's that, and then there's the pollution factor. Obviously cars pollute way more than a bike would, and that is ripping a hole in our ozone layer, and that's not good for plant life, for animals, and for people just breathing that air in. And cars are loud, they're noisy, they keep people up at night. There is a thing called light pollution, which is cars' lights on that have their lights on at night. They disturb like wildlife and birds and like things like migration patterns, and that controls the whole ecosystem. So it sends it all out of whack just from driving cars. And obviously cars are great tools. You know, they were invented for a reason. If you're pregnant and you're having a kid, you don't want to ride your bike to the hospital. Obviously, if you're trying to get across the country, you need to get somewhere fast. If you have a big family, cars are great. What I'm saying is transferring from car travel to bike travel just on a normal day-to-day basis is a great step in the right direction. So now that we've talked a little bit about cars, let's talk about bikes. They help the people and the environment. So if you're riding a bike, you are getting exercise, you're getting outside, you're breathing in that fresh air. If you think about it, you're in a car, you're just locked in a box looking through a windshield, which isn't really how the world looks. People on bikes don't experience as much like road rage as you would in a car, and the environmental factor of it. So obviously, if you're riding a bike, way less carbon emissions in the air, you're helping the world be a greener place, you're happier, you're healthier, and you're more in touch with the environment. What would Duluth look like if half of those people in cars were riding bikes? People would be outside more, engaging in more conversations, happier, healthier. That would affect their work, their jobs, their families. Everything would improve, and you just be getting outside more. And so now we talked about normal bikes, let's get into some green alternatives to bikes. And I'm talking about e-bikes. So recently, I met a guy at a estate sale who had his own e-bike. And this was an older gentleman, and I approached him and asked him, hey, what's this all about? Can you tell me about your bike? And he said, first of all, there's not a hill in Duluth I haven't conquered on the bike. And I asked if it was anything comparable to like a motorcycle or a moped of some kind. He said no, it's very quiet, it's very cheap comparatively. It runs on electricity, you can plug it into the wall in your garage. And also you can just ride it like a normal bike, completely silent. And so I was wondering if they were worth it, so I did a little research, and on wired.com, e-bikes go from around $1,000 to around $6,000 on the more expensive side. And those are all sorts of kinds. You can get foldable bikes, really little ones. You can get big, like a sports car of an e-bike, really fancy ones. And then again, that's wired.com if you want to look those up. It was really interesting to read about. And another thing I want to get into a little bit is electric scooters. So electric scooters have kind of made a rise recently in big cities. Duluth has some. I've ridden on some myself. And the point I want to make is that's kind of a touristy thing. That's for seeing sights, getting around quickly, and they're obviously not going to be as good for traveling across the city, going to get your groceries, maybe visiting a friend, going out, just conquering some hills. And yeah, those are some green alternatives. So in this speech, we talked a little bit about cars in cities and some reasons why they're not so great. We talked about bikes in cities, some reasons why they are awesome. And then we talked about some green alternatives, such as typical bikes. And yeah, I hope this speech has educated you a little bit on biking in cities. And if anything, I urge you to get out, look up some e-bikes, and otherwise dust that bike off from the garage and get out this spring. So yeah, thank you. Now we're gonna go into questions. I have an audience here of 4 people, 4 adults. You don't have to turn the camera or anything, but any questions?
You got any suggestions for alternatives to bike travel or car travel in the winter time?
In the winter time, yeah, you can get fat tire bikes. They're super awesome. I've ridden on some in Spear Mountain. I've ridden down the hills. They're really fun, and they're not as dangerous as you think. It's like riding a bike, but you have really great traction. It's pretty safe.
Since we have to deal with winter here in northern Minnesota, would you still suggest if people can only ride bikes in the summer that they do to get rid of some of the emissions?
Yeah, obviously a little bit is better than none, and it's just it's healthier, it's better for you and the outdoors, and yeah, I definitely would suggest getting into it. Driving a car around in the winter up here especially, is just one of those things we have to do, and there's not many ways around it, so yeah.
Do you recommend those what do they call them? E-unicycles?
Yeah, those things are sick. They're not going to be as good as a bike, but little like one wheels I've seen, or little just electric anything, stuff that you don't need gas for, is going to be really fun to ride, and it won't release anything into the atmosphere. So yeah, those are super fun.
How much work is an e-bike compared to a normal bike?
It depends on what you want. You can ride it like a normal bike most of the time. Otherwise, you can just either press down the pedal or whatever the system is for the e-bike, and then you just pick whatever speed or whatever you need.
Are those batteries getting better, or there's still some complications with that, or what's the deal with the
Well, it's like any bike, you get what you pay for. I know there's some at Walmart that are under $1,000, I think, that are going to be good, obviously, but not as good as the things on wired.com I was looking through.
Is maintenance on a bike expensive?
It depends on where you go. Obviously, if you go to a bike shop, you're gonna pay for the service on it, but it's gonna be a lot better than trying to fix that at home, trying to figure that out. So, and it's really not that expensive comparatively. Like fixing a car is gonna be much more expensive, keeping that up. So yeah, I think that's good. And yeah, thank you.